For decades, the aspiration of creating a human settlement on Mars has captured the imagination of scientists and space enthusiasts alike. In recent years, extraordinary technological and rocketry innovations have fueled the hope of turning this ambitious dream into a reality. It is no longer beyond the bounds of possibility that humanity may set foot on the red planet within the next 2 decades. However, despite the considerable logistical and technological challenges of transporting resources to Mars and establishing a self-sustaining colony, I assert that the most daunting hurdle resides not in the physical domain, but in the social sphere. The foremost peril to any future Mars settlement is not the vast distance from Earth, nor the scarcity of breathable air, nor even the relentless onslaught of solar radiation resulting from the absence of a protective magnetic field. One can surmise that ingenious scientists and engineers will eventually surmount them. The one danger that cannot be overcome by scientific wizardry is our own inherent humanity. Assuming that the humans who embark on this historic quest to establish a viable and long-lasting Mars colony are essentially the same as those of us today, it is our very human nature that represents the greatest threat to the viability of such a colony. The most significant unspoken challenge to achieving a self-sustaining Mars colony is the formidable task of creating a stable society free from the scourge of violence. The reasons for societal destabilization are manifold. There might be cultural and political disagreements, disputes over resource allocation, leadership squabbles, and the possible breakdown of chains of command. However, there exists a more profound threat to social harmony, which looms larger than all the other social and technological challenges. This peril concerns the issue of companionship pairing, the complex dynamics of human sexual relationships, and how they can unravel the very fabric of the colony, more so than even the inhospitable Martian terrain. To illustrate this point, let us embark on a thought experiment. It is essential to acknowledge 2 primary assumptions in this hypothetical scenario. First, we will assume the colonists on Mars will be together as a closed unit, where no one can leave and no new person may join them for extended periods of time. Given the 7 to 9 month journey time to reach Mars, and the significant changes in relative planetary positions, with launch windows to Mars occurring every 2 years, an impromptu return to Earth would be impossible. Second, for the first few years or even decades, the colony's population will remain small, probably comprising only several hundred people at most. This is because critical infrastructure like food and energy production will need to be reliably scaled up before thousands more could contemplate joining the original colonists. With these 2 assumptions stated, let's now consider the first cohort of settlers who will populate the Mars colony. Without a doubt, they must all be exceptionally robust, healthy, and physically fit individuals. There will be no room for the very young or very old in this endeavor, and every individual must contribute to building the colony from strength to strength. While these individuals will undoubtedly devote all their waking hours to building the colony, they are also human beings with basic needs that cannot be overlooked. Apart from the essential requirements of rest and recreation, there is an innate, deep-seated human need for intimate companionship. After all, these are young, healthy, and virile people with emotional and physical needs that must be met if they are to remain mentally sound. The question then arises, how will the need for intimate companionship be fulfilled? Perhaps the mission planners could ensure that each individual is paired with a suitable partner before they embark on the journey to Mars. They may even insist that only married individuals are permitted to embark on the journey. However, being confined in a small space for an extended period can place a considerable strain on any relationship. If the partnership is strained or irrevocably broken, the issue won't be confined to the couple, but rather, it will become the business and problem of the entire colony. Space will be limited, and the ex-partners cannot simply move out and find alternative accommodations on Mars. The tensions between the estranged couple could weaken the collective strength of the colonists, potentially jeopardizing the entire settlement. Imagine that the colony builds up to a stable size of 100 people for a time. If a person cheats on their partner, then 4 people are affected. The person who cheated, their own partner, the person they cheated with, and that person's partner. In a colony of 100 people, that means 4% of the colony is embroiled in a highly complicated situation, And there is no doubt in such a close group of people that word would eventually reach everyone. And that is assuming only one affair occurs. If 3 such incidents arise, it would involve 12% of the colony. If not infidelity, what happens if someone dies? Will their surviving partner be forced to live alone, causing untold emotional turmoil and potentially affecting the colony's overall strength? Maybe pairing up prior to going on the mission isn't the best idea. Perhaps the answer is to allow individuals to naturally pair up without prior planning. Let nature take its course. Let freedom reign and love find a way on the red planet. As romantic as that sounds, that's actually a terrible idea. If we adopt a policy of having a roughly equivalent number of sexually compatible individuals of both genders and allow them to establish relationships organically, it would just result in chaos. The colonists probably wouldn't even survive the journey to Mars, let alone plant a single solar panel in Martian soil. The Pareto principle dictates that a minority of the most attractive individuals will swiftly gain preferential sexual access. There will be a highly distracting degree of sexual competition, out of which will arise a few winners and many losers. Not at all the kind of situation you want to be in when you're stuck in a confined space with nowhere to escape to, if you end up being one of the sexually frustrated losers. This will quickly devolve into severe social instability, as the majority of individuals become sexless and resentful. Such an outcome would be worse than a month-long Martian sandstorm obscuring the sun. Engineering problems like food and energy production are just that. Engineering problems. They have some creative engineering solution that is devoid of emotional valency. But negative human emotions such as I've raised are very deeply rooted in our human psyche. They can't be abstracted away with philosophy or science. They are part of what makes us human, whether we like it or not. The emotional state of being the loneliest individual on the planet, with feelings of anger, resentment, inadequacy, and depression clouding your judgment on a daily basis, is the most dangerous mindset to have in a mission where every human being present must perform at their best. The last thing the colony needs is an individual who harbors a grudge against the group. The colonists will depend on each other for their very existence, and if a significant portion of them are unhappy or maladjusted, it can imperil the stability of the entire colony. These conditions can escalate rapidly into violence, which is an outcome that the colony cannot afford to entertain. Concerns over the dynamics of interpersonal sexual relationships in a Martian colony may seem trivial or even archaic. The concern feels very counterintuitive, because our intuitions are used to a world where, if things don't work out with a partner, we might be angry and resentful. But there is at least the hypothetical possibility of finding companionship elsewhere. There are, after all, plenty of fish in the sea, if the sea is on Earth. But in a limited pool of people, with no fresh meat arriving for years, intuitions that work for Earth fail in a Martian colony. Part of the counterintuitive nature of the importance of thinking about sex on Mars is that while in modern society there is a preoccupation with sex, there is also a reluctance to acknowledge that relationships require structure and strict boundaries if they are to last. We have embraced the idea of following your heart in the modern world, but the preferences of individuals will have to be subjugated to the interests of the collective, and the modern Western mind recoils at this idea, especially when it comes to matters of love and companionship. In a Martian colony, every individual will have to contribute significantly to building the colony, and their emotional and psychological well-being will be crucial to the success of the mission. As the settlers will be working and living in close quarters for years, it is not hard to imagine that tensions could run high. In such a confined and isolated environment, any issues with interpersonal relationships could quickly escalate into serious conflicts. Therefore, it is important to consider the potential risks and challenges that may arise from imbalances in the lack of sexual companionship and emotional intimacy in a Martian colony, and what rules might need to be enforced in order to mitigate such imbalances, and even what punishments might have to be doled out to offending parties. While it may seem trivial, unnecessary, or even draconian and undemocratic to engineer relationships the same way we would engineer food and energy supplies, the stability of the colony could depend on it. In the absence of careful consideration and clear-eyed planning, the colony would not survive. Who would have thought? Sex, it would appear, is as important as rocket science.